Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Kooper Scoop, the only Paper Mario podcast on YouTube. Don't look it up. And with me is the other host, George. I am, by the way, your first host. I'm Shy Blueser, or Shy. Call me whatever, I don't care. And yeah, with me is George. Hello, George. Talk to us.
Hey yo, it's your boy Twopie, baby. What's up?
He's very cool, as you can tell. Today we'll be talking about, we'll have our first episode in a series of episodes where we focus on each of the main entries of the Paper Mario series. Obviously, we'll start at the beginning, Paper Mario 64, which is technically not the very beginning. Technically, the very beginning would be Super Mario RPG, but my co-host hasn't played it yet, so we'll get to that, okay? We'll just start with Paper Mario. There we go.
Yeah, he is correct. The Mario of RPG series is Super Mario RPG, which we will get to that eventually, but I feel like it's better to do that on its own separate thing, since we're just doing the paper games mostly. Like the podcast focus mostly at the paper games. But we do want to talk about Super Mario RPG, as well as the Mario and Luigi series as well, too. Because, they are pretty good. But yeah. Figured that someone did mention in the comments that, we should have an episode for each of the Paper Mario games. Our opinions about it, and, what we think about the games. Good and bad, all of them. Because they all are significantly different, in a way. And it's really funny how the fan base differs with the games. Because a lot of people that I've noticed really starts with, the middle of the games, like the Super.
That was the most accessible one.
Yeah, it was on the Wii, of course, so it's, everywhere. So everyone started with that game. And then, more of the old heads, me and some other people started with, the originals. So we kind of knew what we were going to. And it sort of shaped on how they view the newer games versus how we view the newer games. So, but, let's go ahead and talk about the first game. Paper Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64.
That rolls right off the tongue.
Yep. Big old chunk of a console. Shai, did you own a Nintendo 64 when it was released?
No, I did not. My father owned one, but from what I've been told, he managed to kill it.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. I owned a Nintendo 64 when I was young. I was going to kind of bring up that I didn't actually buy a lot of games for it. I was very young kid. We did go to Blockbuster a lot. I actually didn't own Paper Mario 64. I actually played it off a Blockbuster rental, which is, fun. But, that's kind of how I played a lot of my games.
Isn't Blockbuster one of those dead US things?
Very much a dead US thing, yes.
Oh,
it was huge, in the US for a while, but Netflix kind of shot it repeatedly in the back.
That sounds
over and over and over. But I still remember Blockbuster, because it brings me a lot of games. I played a lot of jank 64 games through Blockbuster.
Like Quest 64?
Yes, Quest 64. This is actually going to open up to, I was talking about with that era of N64 where RPGs were really popular, but it was only on the PS1. The PS1 had, Legend of Dragoon, the Final Fantasy series, Chrono Trigger. There were so many RPGs, and, people loved them because they were just big chunky games, 3 or 4 discs worth of content. And on the N64 we had Quest 64. It's just if you have never played Quest 64, don't. You're better off. But we did get Paper Mario 64, which in of itself was a pretty good RPG, I'm pretty told.
What? Pretty good? No, it was the best.
Pretty good, yes. Shai, why don't you tell us the story of Paper Mario 64, how it all began?
Do you want the backstory, the development stuff, or the story?
Both.
Both? Oh, let's go, I guess. Okay, so Paper Mario 64 was initially... I don't have the exact dates and everything, but here's basically the rundown. Was developed back then as Super Mario RPG 2. But then Square Enix was Lamau, no, we have partial rights to a name, which I still think is bullshit. I don't know what the fuck kind of agreement they had, but
I remember that.
Nintendo that they actually were like willing to, Square, you can have like partial rights to a game name that contains Super Mario is mind-boggling to me nowadays. Anyway, it was initially developed as that, but then Square was like, nope, because they had a falling out over PlayStation and shit. Has to do with Final Fantasy. I heard. I don't know the details.
It was. It's a messy affair, and you could obviously Google to get more of it, but like, it was a cutthroat back then, and
Wacky.
That's why I was kind of like referencing the whole like the RPG war, and PlayStation kind of had a stranglehold of that fucking market. But go ahead, Chuck, continue.
And then basically what happened afterwards is that Nintendo just kind of flipped that game on its head and tried coming up with a gimmick, which ended up being the paper aesthetic, and that then Paper Mario was born, or Mario Story in Japanese. And that's where we are now with Paper Mario. Now the story in game. Oh boy, how do we summarize that? Everybody does a chapter.
I mean, you can just tell.
Okay,
the most broadest way.
To be fair, the plot is like, oh hey, Bowser kidnaps Peach, go get her, crazy.
Crazy.
Have you heard that one before? I don't think so. It's original.
It's actually very funny because, like, obviously at this point in time, it's a story that Nintendo loves to do with Mario and Bowser. But even at this point, like, we already had, like, what, 3 or 4 Mario Super Nintendo games that did the whole Mario Bowser thing.
Yep.
It's actually funny how Super Mario RPG, I know for a fact that didn't have Bowser as the antagonist. He was like a party member. And then they go back to Bowser being an antagonist in this one, technically. But since this was like the first of their new series, I guess it makes sense. Like, I did like that, you know? It was interesting. And it did really help give a lot of character to Bowser. You know, more so than they did in the Super Mario RPG series. Like, again, I don't play the Super Mario RPG series, so, like, I don't know how much Bowser was, like, how he was in that one versus original Paper Mario 64. What do you think, Shai? Same?
No, Bowser definitely turned into a Square character.
Okay, gotcha. That's good enough. So, yeah.
Super Mario RPG has a very unique way of portraying a lot of their characters, and you'll see when we potentially play it someday. Hint.
So you would say that you'd like the characterization of Bowser in this one better?
I think both. Like, it's been a while since the thing is, I play Super Mario RPG a lot. Actually, I try to have a yearly playthrough. Sorry. So, Bowser in Mario RPG he's written like a Square character in a sense, but he's also he has his own charm in a way. Like, Paper Mario 64 does sort of go off of that, but in a different. It's so hard to explain to someone who hasn't played the game.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you.
You need to play Super Mario RPG to understand where I'm coming from, because it's sort of the same, but not exactly.
I'm curious. I thought it would be the same, honestly, or just they made him just a generic tough guy or something.
He's a tough guy, softy.
I mean, yeah.
But more than he is in Paper Mario 64.
Oh wow, more. Okay. Again, it's very hard to fuck Bowser nowadays. I think people love the personality that Bowser has, and
they mainly love Bowser's Inside Story Bowser.
I mean, of course. So, yeah, keep going on with the in-game story, but...
I mean, okay, so Bowser, kidnaps Peach, you know, he first what he does is he steals the Star Rod, which is the most amazing tool ever to mod What? That's a different thing? Oh, okay.
I got a question about that.
Yeah?
What is the Star Rod different than the one in Kirby?
Oh,
They
there
both
you can tell
have
that
Star
this is not
Rods.
scripted, because I was not prepared for this random ass question. Well, I mean, I think it's. I know in German we call it a Star Scepter for Kirby, so it's in that sense it's different. Although I mean it's kind of the same You know, like
It's
interesting question. I will say. It's not the same because in Kirby it does different things. It's not like a wish granting thing. In Kirby, it's a weapon.
Curious. It has like a nice pedestal too,
Yeah.
like the Star Rod here,
Oh
which
my!
is why it's interesting.
Stop. What kind of Evan questions are these?
Dude, you liked it?
I was
It's
not prepared.
It's interesting because like obviously they called it differently like where you're at, but like here they're both called Star Rods, which is like
Oh, great.
I never thought that. I'm gonna be real honest with you. I don't think it was the same thing. I just found it funny that they both shared the same name and they looked very much similar, and I was just like, did they never just like think about that? I don't know. Obviously, they're both different, completely different tools of intention. The Star Rod in 64 grants wishes and is basically a reality bender tool, and the one in Kirby is a weapon that Kirby uses to defeat the forces of darkness or whatever.
Yeah, it's like it's the power source of the Fountain of Dreams or something, and while it's in there, it seals a nightmare. And DDD like steal Kirby podcast now, by the way, get used to it. DDD like steals the thing and splits it or so with his mystical powers, splits it into stars. I don't know what the exact story of Kirby's adventures. I just know he like fucks with the Star Rod. Kirby has to get the pieces of it, put it back together, and then fight Nightmare or something like that.
I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure anyone who's played Kirby and Paper Mario, which is probably a group that, you know, plays the same game often. They probably have noticed that. It's always just been a funny thing to just bring up.
I don't like that random question. Don't scare me like that, George. What the hell?
Alright, so he gets the Star Rod. I'll take it here. Yeah, so the story goes, he gets the Star Rod, makes himself, you know, better than Mario, makes him super strong, invincible basically. Mario goes on a quest to defeat the Star Rod by finding the spirits. And yeah, you know the rest. So that's the story in a nutshell. And it sort of starts, it sets up the whole gambit of Paper Mario games of how they, you know, collect the MacGuffins each time. Which are divided into like
tropes.
Yeah, which are divided into sections / chapters. Which it's like it's one of those tropes that I don't mind really. Like I kind of like just because like it made everything it paced the game really well. You know, it's like very much different than playing Final Fantasy or anything like that, where it's like you're just going to a location and hope to God it goes somewhere, or if not, then you're just going to a location.
So by the way, fun fact: the only Final Fantasy game I ever played was the first one.
Wow, really?
Yes.
Ace.
I don't play many traditional RPGs. I don't mind them. It's just I don't know.
Yeah, and that's actually a good way to go into it, just because like, despite this game being turn-based, it's very different from your traditional RPGs, especially back then. Because unlike Shy, I've played all of them. Like even like near their like release dates, I played all the Final Fantasy. I played Chrono Trigger, and Paper Mario is very interesting in that fact. Where I mean, the one thing you notice right off the bat is that it's like, you know, very simple battle system of just 1 to 2 damage numbers. Versus Final Fantasy's like you're hitting for like 100 damage. And it's just like, well, you know, if you break it down, it's doing the same thing, right? But it's still very interesting in Paper Mario just because like you can track everything so much better with the single to double digit numbers. Rather than in Final Fantasy, you find a weapon, arrow goes up, and you're like, ook, ook, let's put the weapon on because bigger damage means better.
But I hate like the straightforward linear weapon upgrade system of RPGs. Like that's why I prefer the Paper Mario so much, because of the badges. I've always been a sucker for armor and stuff that has effects instead of just your raw stats.
Yeah, exactly. I agree too. I think it's like very interesting. Like obviously with each Final Fantasy, and I'm not putting down Final Fantasy by the way, like they all have their little in-game system that lets you customize your character, how to plan stuff out. Like in 9, there is a ability system attached to each weapon that helps you do more damage against this type of enemy or gives you a skill and stuff, which is cool. But like when it came to just raw equipment, you didn't really need to mess with it. You just found better thing and equipped onto it. Like with Paper Mario, the only equipment you had were badges, and the way that you would put your badges on would really, really change how each fight would go. obviously you could go the standard like big number routes, but you would still run into enemies that would still like really mess you up if you weren't prepared for them.
But big numbers means you are prepared for them. At least it's 64. Do you know how fucking easy vanilla is? That's sad.
Yeah. I mean, I think most of the Nintendo RPGs are easy just because they're made for a younger group, which is fine. I kind of like the ease at first just because, like, you know, you're not really like forced to just get down there and just like, oh god, this fight's so tough. Like,
but Color Splash is super difficult, George.
Oh,
you need to know the right thing to use for each battle, or else you can't win.
I mean, true.
It's very,
make
very
it
hard.
obvious.
No, I actually was stuck at one of the Color Splash Kooper Link battles at some point, I'm pretty sure, because I didn't want to look stuff up.
I think we've all been there.
I think it was like one of the last ones where you needed to use two separate things, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, thanks for telling me, very sick. Anyway.
So yeah, and like how Paper Mario does it is it breaks down to each chapter. We have all the chapters from 1 to the final chapter where you take the fight to Bowser. And, you know, you're introduced to a lot of characters, you're introduced to a lot of interesting locations. Did I mention that the Mushroom Kingdom and the area surrounding it must be the biggest place of all time? Like, I always love when I play a new Mario game that's like not a traditional Mario game, or it could be a traditional one, where they just spit out just random locations. Like, imagine seeing all that places on the map, bro. It'd be crazy.
Sorry, George.
So like
I
you,
needed to.
yeah. It's fine. It's my favorite way to count, of course, bro. So when it comes to like talking about Paper Mario 64, it's interesting because I feel like that's the game that most people are like always thinking about when it's talking about like what are the good Paper Mario RPGs. It's like that one in Thousand Year Door.
It's the ones that Nintendo doesn't want you to play.
Yeah, basically. It's the ones that you don't really see much nowadays, and then this is where it goes on to people who are going like, what do you mean? They're making them turn-based, just like the old game, right? It's like, no, it's
turn-based, sure, yeah. Let's call it that.
Yeah, you know? Like, this is where the games were just strictly an RPG. Like, obviously they were different, but, like, they still had experience system, level up, all that stuff, reasons to, like, you know, get into the encounter. Which, again, we'll talk about when we play to the newer games on that stuff. But Paper Mario 64 was just done right. A lot of people love it. A lot of people still play it to this day. Even the way the game looks with the whole paper aesthetic. Because, like, it used the paper aesthetic as a gimmick, right?
Oh, this is where I get to gush about how Paper Mario 64 is the best looking N64 game even today.
It really okay, I'm gonna let you down there. You are right, but to be fair, the way they did the aesthetic made the game timeless. Like every N64 game looks like, ugly.
I do think that even some of the overworld areas, just like a Star Hill, for example, like it is low poly and everything, but they just made it nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like super nice. It's like I give it that just because like I think a lot of the N64 games, I think most of them look.
They
like trash.
all look
like,
awful.
Like, they all look awful. Like, we're not debating that, all right? Like, all N64
Again, I'm
games
sorry
nowadays...
if you grew up with it or whatever. We don't mean to, like, hate on your childhood or, you know, it's just they like, if you like how some of them look, sure, that's cool, but you can't deny that they do be kind of crusty.
Yeah, it's a rough age. Like, obviously, it's like, it's N64, it's old, it's like... It's so old right now.
Yeah, but the SNES is also old and it holds up. The GameCube, like, the N64 is very unfortunate because it's between the SNES, which is, like, timeless, and the GameCube, which is not timeless, but, like, the GameCube has Wii-era graphics, by the way, in a sense. Like, in terms of poly count and everything like that. And the GameCube just still looks pleasant. Like, I can play many 3D GameCube games, be like, this looks fine. And I can play an N64 game and be like, ah, yes.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that point too. Like, we're playing through Sunshine, and
the Sunshine still looks really nice.
Yeah, it does. Like, I'm like, all right, so like, me and my buddy Shy here, we'll play on original hardware, we'll play on like emulator stuff. So we are kind of used to seeing how everything looks on regular res and up res, right? And both counts. Doesn't matter what you do to an N64 game, it look ugly. Like, like
I mean, yeah.
you have to. It's like, but like that, and that really helps Paper Mario 64, honestly. Because, like, goddamn, bro, the way they did it, everything looks so nice. Like, it is literally pleasant to look at. Like, I shit you not. My wife knows how much I love Final Fantasy IX, but she cannot stand the pre-rendered graphics in the back, like for the background. Hates them.
Oh, she would hate Super Mario RPG then.
Yeah, she don't like pre-rendered backgrounds. I was like, damn, bro. And like, I know a lot of people who are like that, and it does suck hearing that there are people who just literally won't try a game out or play it just because like it looks ugly, but they exist, and that gives Paper Mario 64 a big edge because, like, again, timeless look. Like, a lot of people just get into it just because Nintendo keeps upporting it too. Like, you can get it on the Wii, you can get it on the Wii U, and now you can get it on the Switch.
Yeah, and on the Switch it actually works now. They apparently fixed their virtual console on there, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. Funny enough. But like, yeah, I think one big thing to Paper Mario itself, I think a lot of I'm gonna say it right now, as I don't think it looks the best. I think all the Paper Mario games look good in their art style. I think they picked a pretty good a pretty safe, like, good, art style to go with. But it really helps the game, and it gives it that like little cute, charming look that a lot of these games that are trying to, be like Paper Mario, are trying to capture. That like kind of very cute, timeless look. Bug Fables was trying to do the same thing as well, and I think it worked out for Bug Fables. I think Bug Fables looked nice, even though a lot of people don't like the 3D backgrounds.
Really?
Yeah. Did you never heard about that?
No, I played Bug Fables, but I didn't like. My experience with Bug Fables is like, Bug Fables releases, I hear about it, I see a bit of it, I don't give a fuck. Eventually I play it, I'm like, oh, this is a good game. I do my Pebble run, we're here. End of timeline. Okay. I don't really like have looked into what people think about it graphically and stuff. I just think it looks okay. The one complaint I heard was the physics system, sorry.
Yes, that's true. The physics system was a big issue on the. I'm talking about like the release type. Like when I got it, I was like,
yeah, I heard that was fixed later.
Yeah, it was fixed later. Like it was. I mean, it wasn't as bad as a lot of people made it out to be. Like I was still able to play it like during launch.
Yep, people couldn't cope because Paper Mario didn't really have like movable blocks like that.
Yeah, exactly. But even then, like a lot of people didn't like the 3D like environments of Bug Fables.
I think it looks
when
nice.
They first released. I thought so too. I didn't think so either. I was like, I thought it looked really nice too, but people were just like kind of trashing on it. And like, again, this is no shot to Bug Fables. I always recommend Bug Fables to people who are looking for a Paper Mario game. I'll fucking recommend it now. If you're looking for a Paper Mario game, check out Bug Fables. It's really good.
Yeah, I can vouch. It's playable.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah. So going back to Paper Mario 64, on the looks, does really well. And we already talked about the gameplay, where it is turn-based, but the way they do turn-based with the badges and the simple numbers makes the whole experience also just really unique, even to this day, really. Like, it's really cool how you can just, like, do some fights here and there. With just the minimal amount of hits or limiting yourself in any kind of way possible, just because you kind of can always kind of see what's coming at you, what numbers to prepare for. Again, very different from Final Fantasy, where you can't really play that much exact. You have to just pray that you're high enough level, or your gear is good. Like, that's it, really.
Yo, grinding RPGs, let's go.
Another big thing about it, too, is that, like the other games, too, they also gave it an edge, is that there was a lot of interactivity within the combat, too. Like, with the whole blocking mechanic. Obviously, that was a thing with the blocking and, like, doing, like, pressing the A button to do more damage and stuff. Obviously, that was a thing with the Super Mario RPG series as well.
Yo, it's nice that you call it serious. Thanks. I'm not coping, you're coping.
Yeah. Like it was from them, and they carried it on, and that also really helped it because it just made all the combats just like super just fun to play through. Because like you were just pressing like attack and then that's it. Like again, an RPG thing that's very standard for people who are just like, yes, I just attack. In this game where you have to like actually like, oh wait, I can block, or oh wait, I can do more damage if I time stuff correctly. Really helped it out. Was really a unique case for it. Like it's actually insane how much different it was from the RPGs at that era. And now that you like see it from like this point, at like the more modern point of view, that game would have stuck out like that. Like it would have been like if a game like that would have came out during this era, like the Switch had this like super unique RPG that no other system could get to, and it was good. Like you might say like, oh, Pokemon? No, Pokemon's trash. But like,
my God, not the
it
Pokemon
would be great if you could like, it would be great if something like that were to came out more time. Like you won't see that shit no more. Like obviously nowadays you see indie games like just doing as much as they can, because goddamn there's so many. But like back then there weren't indies, so that was really magical back then. And going back on Paper Mario 64, a lot of cool characters too. Again, there's the whole elephant in the room where, you know, with Paper Mario and unique characters are kinda but we had them plenty in this game. You had all the characters that work with Bowser. Like you had the main cast, you got Luigi, you had Peach, you had Bowser and Kamek.
Unique characters, let's go.
Very unique characters. And then you had all the cool little bosses that Bowser hired. You had the Koopa Bros, yes. You got Took and Koopa. You know, you had a bunch of cool guys. And then you had the partners.
Bro, did you just not mention Half and Puff, the best boss in existence?
I know you were going to mention it. Why would I like take that from you? I know you're going to say it anyway. But yeah, we had a
yeah, Half and Puff, let's go.
And then we had the partners too, and it really adds a lot too, just because like you weren't just playing Mario, you're playing like all these cool characters and races that Nintendo has already just like made with their previous game. They made this whole like lore-based world where you saw not just Toads, but you saw, you know, Goombas, Koopas, Yoshis, Boos, just all interacting with each other in this like little setting. And again, this was already done probably distanced. I mean, yeah, you still get one as a party member, so it's still there.
I mean, yeah, but she's kind of forced on you, you know.
True, she is forced. Very true. So, and of course, it also helps the fact that Paper Mario 64 was also the spearhead for the modding community, because like it was one of the first games that got modded really heavily and breathed new life into the scene. Like there was a lot of people who were fans of Paper Mario 64 and talked about it. There were still a lot of challenger runners, a lot of speed runners for it. But the game being like as moddable as it is right now, thanks to the new tools that were coming out for it, really showcased a lot of people's like renewed love in that game and why people prefer it over like the newer games.
Did you run out of fuel?
No, I was gonna say if you wanted to say something. I feel like
no, I'm just vibing, like listening to the big man speak.
Okay, let's make sure. So yeah, I think it's really important to sort of just kind of not just talk about how good Paper Mario 64 is, but like the impact it has on like gaming generally, like how many people it's influenced. Because, like, again, it's not, like, a crazy game. When people think about crazy games on the N64 that made shit real, people think about Super Mario 64, like, the 3D platformers, like, the big game. Or the games that sold, like, the most, which is probably, like, Super Smash 64 or something. And really? I actually don't know. I actually don't know, honestly. I actually don't know what sold, like,
SM64
well.
is probably the most selling one. Didn't it come bundled or some shit?
I think it came bundled or something.
I'll look it up, you talk. We
Okay.
have our epic segment of looking up and he talks again. That's cool. Continue.
I mean, it's
continuity.
always interesting to see. Yeah, like it's actually really interesting. So I was gonna bring up sales wise because like I always think that sales wise is what really kind of shapes Paper Mario, just because the ones that people liked a lot were on consoles that didn't sell so well, that didn't sell so hot, like those games.
Yeah, at the
This
top.
and
At the top is SM64, then we have Mario Kart 64. And yes, Super Mario 64 was bundled. And then you have GoldenEye 07, which was also bundled with some consoles. Then on spot 4 we have Ocarina of Time, of course. Number 5 is actually Smash Bros. Stadium on number 6, which was bundled to some degree, but you know, special edition consoles. Donkey Kong 64 at number 7, interestingly enough.
Wow,
But that
really?
was bundled.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which was, I think that was like the version with the expansion pack and the console or something. Then Diddy Kong Racing 64 on 8. Star Fox 64 on 9. And Banjo-Kazooie on 10.
Damn, see? That's kind of crazy.
And obviously Paper Mario is nowhere to be found because it released in 2001 at the very end of the console's life.
Yeah. I always thought that the way that it was released, like both this and the next game that we talk about, are kind of why the game's shaped to be a lot different. And it's not that the games were at fault, really. It's more of like what consoles they were each on. And
I mean, I would say that, like, I would rather, like, of course it sucked that less people got to play it that way, but because it released so late, it did end up becoming a better game, at least.
Yeah,
because
it did.
More experience for the developers and all that.
It definitely did. Like, again, there's really hard to kind of knock Paper Mario 64 because it does a lot of things super well. Like, the game is paced really good. All the chapters are paced really good. The little story beats are really fun. You, like, enjoy the banter between, like, Bowser and his troops and the NPCs that you'd see around with Mario.
Hey,
like,
Peach.
Everything is just... Hey, Peach. Like, it just wraps up everything super well. And, oh man, it's crazy. Like, again, we don't want to just get out here and just be like, yo, this is the best game ever, but like, it's hard to argue, honestly, because it's so good. Like, a lot of things it does really well. And again, it still aged super well. Like, there are a lot of games I don't recommend to people. Like, it's like, I meet a new person, right? And they like want to get into Final Fantasy.
Oh no.
Best thing they want to do is I gotta give them something that they can like bite into that's not too much. Like more of the later games. Like I wouldn't tell them to play FF1. Because
what?
like
But that's the best one. It has so many glitches in this fucking sick.
yeah. Like I wouldn't tell them to play the older ones because the games are very old and there's not a good way of playing them right now. Like they would have to play something modern, like, you know? With Paper Mario, despite the fact that technically there is now a way of playing it now, I would still recommend the first one just because like it's still really good and it still aged really well. Like there are no like crazy segments where like, oh god, what were the developers thinking? Like,
well, some people would disagree, but we don't care.
do you have a segment that someone didn't like in 64? Because I would love to see.
I know some people hate the toy box, and some people hate Chapter 6 because running back and forth, which is, you know, the TTYD basically.
I mean, yeah.
Like I have seen the same people defending TTYD to death that say Chapter 6 and 64 is the worst chapter ever.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, like, especially with me doing that TTYD challenge run recently, like, TTYD drags.
Yeah, we'll talk about TTYD in the next one, because I have my things on that game too. But overall, when it comes to 64, I like a lot of the chapter. I like a lot of the game, really. Like, even, I can agree that Chapter 4 and Chapter 6 can be a little like back and forth because you have to like play with that game's mechanic and stuff, but like it's definitely not as bad as they make it out to be. I'm not even talking about Paper Mario wise. Like I've seen games that like that make you go really back and forth a lot, and
ooh, like TTYD.
Yeah, but like, just
I'm
outside
sorry,
Paper
but
Mario
it's
section,
true.
but, like, yeah.
It's fresh on my mind. So we will talk about a certain chapter in 64, and I'll have a TTYD thing about it. Okay, go on.
Actually, let's go here. Let's tell the audience what our favorite chapters are.
Sure, you begin.
Okay, so when it comes to my favorite chapter in 64, it's hard actually because I actually like a lot of them. I would probably say that, it would probably be a toss up between 3 and 4. I actually like both of them a lot. Chapter 3 being that,
better.
yeah, like Chapter 3 being the Forever Forest, where you go and meet the Boos to beat the Great Tubba, whatever. Love that chapter. Was really cool. I like the Boos and how like you had to work with them. Like they had to test you first, and you had to work with them. And then like Chapter 4 had Shy Guys, and I think Shy Guys are like the most slept on concept for Mario enemies ever. Like they just usually use them for Yoshi's Island, which I get, but like I don't know. I feel like they'd be so much cooler if you use all their gimmicks for Mario games. Like
I mean, Paper Mario has to use. Yeah, Paper Mario, of course, has used them. That's not what I wanted to say. I know that Mario and Luigi series has here and there some Shy Guy enemies at least.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's not like they're not used at all. I just think they're underused.
Oh yeah, no, they're definitely like Mario
I feel like they
take them.
Yeah, like I feel like with the amount of fun things they did with them in Chapter 4, like even after replaying the game, I was just like, wow, Shy Guys are a really fun enemy. I wish they like kind of did more with them. Like, are they even at 1,000-Year Door?
There's bandits. That's
I mean,
probably
that's it.
Yes.
Damn, bro, that's crazy. Like, I mean, I guess they wanted to like.
They're in the audience.
Yeah, they're in the audience.
Such gameplay impact.
Such gameplay. Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. It's nuts. I know they appear in like later games, like here and there, but like I really like the Shy Guy chapter. That was really fun. My friend, I have a good story to tell here. My friend Tyler was actually obsessed with General Guy for a bit. He wanted to cosplay as him for a while.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
He wanted to cosplay as him, and he wanted us to cosplay with him as Shy Guys. Like to one of the cons. Like we never got around to doing it, just because we couldn't afford it.
Oh.
But that's still a story that still makes me laugh to this day, just because of how much he was into it. Like he was trying to theory craft a way to make like a little fake tank for him too.
Oh my god.
And I was just like, man, this will be the coolest cosplay ever. But alright, Shai,
I'll
let
lend
me
you
hear
my
your
mask
favorite.
if it ever happens.
Well, there you go. Alright, Shai, let me hear your favorite chapter.
Let's see. I'll give like a quick run on everyone. One, no, I like the Koopa Bros, but there's not too much going on.
What?
Huh?
You don't think Koopa Bros carry that entire chapter, bro?
They are
Like-
sick. They have a sick theme, but it's chapter 1 that drags sadly.
I don't know, bro. I think they carry it so hard for
definitely.
me.
Chapter 2, aka Ben gets lost in Dryder Desert. No. Chapter 3, I actually don't like, aside from the Boost Manager segment. I hate
wow.
Tubba's Castle, and I think Forever Forest is obnoxious. That's definitely my least favorite chapter in Paper Mario 64, but even then I don't hate it. Chapter 4 is definitely my favorite. Chapter 5 is okay. I like Chapter 6, but it's hard carried by Hufflepuff, and you know what? Chapter 7 is actually also lit. So if
Chapter 7's really
yeah, like if you want a bit of a different answer, like my neutral answer would be Chapter 4, because I just like Chapter 4 is where I'd say that the vanilla game gets good, like really good, because you get like access to a lot of stuff. You get
I
like
agree with that, yeah.
That's the chapter where your in natural progression gets what's it called, the switching badge, quick change.
Yeah, quick change, yeah.
Although you can get it in Chapter 3, fun fact. If you go back through the forest, once you obtain boots, you can already get it. But yeah, in terms of game design, you're supposed to have it in Chapter 4. And once again, that's just where things get really nice. Chapter 5 is totally fine, don't have an issue with. 6, yeah, Hufflepuff carries, and 7, yes, 7 is my answer for now because the gimmick is just really fucking cool.
Yeah, no, 7's really cool. Like, there's a lot of cool chapters. Like, again, I'm a bit more lenient on the chapters just because, like, I've played, like, a lot more... I feel like I played a lot more traditional RPGs than Shy here. So, like...
I have played Earthbound 0, that's all I need to know.
Oh, well, there you go. Like...
you've played that one, you've played all of them. At least in terms of NES RPGs. What? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the last non-Earthbound RPG is that was traditional I played, aside from the Final Fantasy one.
Yeah,
I'll think.
But yeah, like, I like playing a lot of different variety of RPGs, and that's why I still think Paper Mario is still really good. Just because, like, a lot of the chapters I still like, even though that they might be weak in some aspects, I've probably played something that's even weaker. And it's like, of course, like, you're going to compare the games to each other all the time like that. And it's like, you're going to have to. Everyone does anyway. It's like, you're going to remember stuff out. You're going to remember the good stuff. You're going to remember the bad stuff. And that's why I still like playing Paper Mario 64. Like, it's still just one of those games where it's just like, I could just jump in. Like, even to me, like, a lot of the chapters don't drag. Like, I love chapter 1. Like, I still think...
I wouldn't say, like, necessarily... It's just, like, in comparison, it drags, is what I would say.
Yeah,
I will say that I've also played it a lot of times in my life, so eventually the novelty wears off a bit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I get you, bro. That's my street, too. It's like, yeah, you play chapter 1 a billion times, you're just gonna, like, you get it over with. Chapter 1 has... The Kooper Bros are really fun. Chapter 2, I'm not a huge fan of Chapter 2. I like the desert concept, which is cool.
I think that the first thing is, like, the first segment I don't like, the desert, I think is fun.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, like, the section with Buzzer I think is just kinda... I don't like the letter fetch quest.
Yeah, I thought that was really lame, too. Like, I like the idea behind it, like, yeah, you're helping him out, but, like, it is sort of just a snog at first, because, like, that area is not, like, super great. They're just kind of, like, hopping around, dealing with, like, dumb, rocky enemies. I like the desert. I like the concept of desert. What do you think about the town just being a straight shot?
What? Straight shot?
In the desert. Yeah, in the desert, you just go right, and you go right to the town.
Oh, that's what you mean. I mean, it's good game design, I'd argue.
Would argue good game design.
Yes.
Yeah, because whenever I got there before, and I always thought that it was weird, like, I wonder why they didn't, like, become assholes. They were just like, let's put the desert at the top right or something. Or the town at the top right or something.
You know,
Like,
I just say good game design. Be like, follow the path. And if you want cool stuff, then you can explore.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you get the gemstone, you get directly to the thing. It's very simple.
Yeah. I like chapter 2. I think it's probably the one that drags on to me the most, just because, like, nothing really happens aside from exploring the desert.
That's fair.
It's also the modder's dream, because every time I play a modded version,
oh my god, no, we don't talk about Promo Desert on here. Jesus fucking Christ, I don't want to see Promo Desert ever again in my life.
Oh man, people love that desert.
Oh my god, it's like, if you out there, if you want to mod Paper Mario 64, if you make the desert a fucking maze, I will come to your house.
Tight, bro. Yeah, I like chapter 3. I already talked about it because I already said I liked it a lot about it. I kind of just like the concepts around it. Tableau is a castle area where you have to explore and sneak around. It's cool in theory, but it can be annoying.
Bro,
I like
that is the most dragging moment for me, honestly. Go on. The most played ones are obviously chapter 1 and 2. Like, when I do gimmicky challenge runs, they end around Taba because they buff the shit out of the heart. The castle is just like such a, and I will like I'd say that Paper Mario 64 chapter 3 is TTYD's chapter 4.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
think
saying
about
something.
and that is mainly because you have to run from Gusty Gulch to the castle, and then you have to flee back to the windmill. and you have to see that whole section of screens 2 times. And honestly, those screens, like those screens leading up to the castle, are probably one of my least favorite screens in the entirety of Paper Mario. Like in the first 2, by the way. We don't talk about certain screens in Super because we'll get to that. But I don't like the enemies in Chapter 3. I think the hyperclefts and all that are obnoxious. Some of the placements are, like, in general, like, least favorite overworld enemy is clefts because they chase you down and it's so obnoxious. Go on.
They chase you down. They're pretty quick. They stop suddenly sometimes.
Yeah, and getting a first strike on them is trash because you don't like if you have a strike shield, it doesn't matter because you don't deal enough damage yet. And getting one with the hammer is hard because they just charge at you. And getting one with Bombette is also trash because they have like these very weird movement patterns, and then actually getting hit with Bomb on Overworld is always a bit weird on enemies. And it's just, don't like clefts on the Overworld. In battle they're okay, but on the Overworld they can die. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
I love how we're talking so, like, in detail of this, just because we're not gonna have a chance to do this in later games. We're gonna be like, but like, it's so true. Like, anyone who's played 64 knows exactly what Shai is talking about, and if you haven't, he might have just been speaking Chinese to you, like, but like, because we're both big 64 stans, we love the game. So yeah, there's Chapter 4, which again we talked about, loved it, Shy Guys, fun area, lots of cool enemies. I'm not a huge fan of Chapter 5. Like, I love the Yoshis and stuff like that, but like, anything that's like a jungle, I just don't like jungle areas.
The thing is, here's my take with Chapter 5, it's TTYD's Chapter 4 done right. Because they don't make you go back through all these jungle rooms after the tree. They have an extra path open up where you go through, and you're set right back where the volcano is, and that's sick.
That is sick. Proper game design.
Yes.
And
the Yoshi quest is also not enough rooms to like really be an issue. Like I do get lost there sometimes, actually. Funnily enough, I'm a Ben too. It's just it works. It's like also in general, I just like how connected these rooms are, and it just makes it more convenient. In my opinion.
Like once you go and explore and find the right Yoshi, you kind of get this like cool momentum where they each connect to each other and make shortcuts to the back, like back where you were coming from. So it ends up not being terrible. Like, it feels terrible at first, but like once you play it, you'll just find natural shortcuts, which I think is really good. Good game design. And then like there's Chapter 6, which again we talked about. I kind of love how magical Chapter 6 feels. Like every time the first time I went through Chapter 6, I thought it was fucking insane. I was like, bro, we're in this dimension, dude. Crazy. Even though you are like kind of running back from room to room because you're not sure where to go.
Yeah, but it's only like 2 rooms each, which I think is fine. And it's not like you don't visit the same, like, unless it's your first time playing, you don't visit the same rooms all that often, so I think it's tolerable. I understand if you don't love it, but saying it's worse than Chapter 4 in TTYD, you have issues.
Agreed. So yeah, Chapter 6 is fun, and then Chapter 7 is just fucking... I think I agree with Shivler. It's not my favorite, but it's a very 10 out of 10 chapter.
It's like it's very backloaded. The first half is obviously not as exciting, but the temple is just so stupidly cool.
Yeah, of course. It's so cool. I like the first half, and like if you played already, the first half drags.
The first half is like the first half is like you have the quest with the Mayor Penguin. Obviously, like if you first play it, it's sick. It's just like if you're like, especially if you like the challenge in the games, like in mods and stuff, then you're like, I just want to get to the exciting part, and the thing is part of the exciting part.
Exactly. And then, like, you know, at the end we get to Bowser, which, you know, it's kind of like going through Bowser's Castle, which I guess we've already seen done as, like, you know, generic RPG, whatever, Bowser. But still was a good send-off, because you get, like, a really good fight at the end, too. Going over some more aspects of Paper Mario 64 2 is again, we didn't even talk about like the music. I think like the music. I'm gonna be straight with all y'all here. I think all the Paper Mario game musics are all bangers. I think they don't fuck up on music.
Yeah, no, there's not really bad tracks in Paper Mario overall. It's just
so
like the lowest is like just a mediocre track, but mediocre is not bad in this case, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, I think all the music good. I didn't really harp on the music because I think we all know that we like the music. You know, even in the newer games, the music is still good, which also helps the game being timeless because you're just gonna like, oh, this track is great, and again helps a lot.
I will say that I think 64 has better music than TTYD though. Especially like
overall, or just certain tracks.
I would say kind of like of course I like some tracks in TTYD too. But what I think about TTYD is just like I like the boss tracks of 64 a lot more. They just feel more neat, if that makes sense.
I feel like they have more oomph to
Yeah,
me.
they're like, I don't know, they work better. They're like not bad in TTYD, but I think in 64 they're a lot more memorable. They're a lot more differentiated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Like they're unique is the word I was looking for. Like you have Huff and Puff, which is like duh, and then you have Crystal King, which is an iconic theme. You have the Kooper Bros. Like they're all just sick. Meanwhile, at TTYD, I'm like, I've played the game recently, and the only one that's actually somewhat sticks out to me is Macho Grabber.
Yeah, it's weird. I actually fucking love Macho Grabber's theme. I used to have that as my ringtone in high school for like the longest time. Dude, no one would know where that song came from. It was great. I loved it. But yeah, I agree with that too. I think a lot of the music in like the newer games, or like it doesn't Your Door specifically, I think a lot of the music is like very light. Like doesn't really go in.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like it doesn't like have, I don't know if it's a bass or something. I don't know, but 64 has some tracks that just go in.
Yeah.
Like even the weaker tracks. What do you think? Toucan boss fights, like Koopa's boss fight?
I actually think that, like, I'm thinking about it, I'm going through it in my head, all of them are completely fine at best, like, at worst, I mean. Like, even Toot and Koopa, I'm like, that's definitely the least memorable one. Actually, no, I think the least... that should be it. Because, hold up, so Koopa Bros obviously is sick, you have Toot and Koopa, which is, like, completely fine, then you have Heart, which is... neat. I love the Shy Guy one, by the way. That one is also really unique.
Oh yeah, that one's really good too.
I think the only one I really can't remember as it goes right now is Lava Piranha, but I don't think it was bad. But yeah, so the least memorable ones for me are Chapter 2 and Chapter 5 in terms of music, apparently.
I think Chapter 5 is just like a tad little generic, but it's not that bad.
I mean, in return, it has the most funny boss fight with the plot twist.
Yeah, the plot twist. I actually, it's actually very funny talking about that, just because like I think I've seen someone who's never played the game before play it recently, and they were stuck on that fight. Like, who was it? Damn, it was a streamer I was watching. Like, he wasn't playing a modded version. This was vanilla. Like, he's never played RPGs a lot, so he got to the 5th boss fight, and for people who've played Paper Mario 64, you know Lava Piranha, you know his gimmick. He died to, like, the first form of him, like, 3 times. Like, he was frustrated.
God, I have a similar story, that's the worst part.
Yeah, and then he gets to, like, the 2nd form, and he fucking, like, loses it. He's like, ugh! Because, like, he just, he burned all his resources killing the first worm, so it's just like... I'm just watching it.
Have the same story.
You have the same story?
Yeah, I was watching Let's Player, like, I don't know, 2015 around, maybe earlier, maybe 2014. They was doing a like old school Paper Mario Let's Play. Like, those were like 10-minute parts, but they were fun. He had played the game before, for the record, but he goes to Lava Piranha. He spends like 3 whole parts, so 30 minutes, trying to figure out how to beat the first phase, has like the most optimized badge setup now, then goes to 2nd phase, is completely devastated, takes another 2 parts, and he's like, oh great, I gotta equip Ice Power now, how? Heartbreaking.
I actually think though that's where the game like gets hard for a lot of people. If you're not used to the game or playing RPGs in general, the Chapter 5 is a good wake-up call. Although I do argue that, like, I think Chapter 4's bosses are also pretty good. I think Chapter 5 is a big, like, turning point for a lot of people.
Yeah, the thing is with Chapter 4 is that you get WOD right before it, which invalidates General Guide to a certain degree.
Yeah. Which, again, you can make the same argument with Chapter 5, because you get Sushi, who...
But yeah, but the thing is with Sushi, you need to have foresight and actually upgrade her twice.
Yeah, yeah. Like, you have to know. Then you have to know. It's funny how you say that, because, like, there's just an upgrade button outside
the average player will probably upgrade her twice, especially because that's the chapter where you first get the Ultra Stone, but... I mean, there will be some people who are like, Pog, I get Fire Shell? Let's go?
Yeah. which partner is the most unoptimal for which chapter?
I mean, at least Kooper is not in chapter 6, so...
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Half and Puff, Kooper only anybody?
Tasty. Very
H&P will never see that Dizzy Shell coming.
They'll never see it coming. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and go into our closing thoughts here, because we've talked a lot.
Chapter 8, though. Chapter 8. We need to...
You want to talk about Chapter 8 a bit?
We talked about base stuff and everything. The episode can be a bit longer. It's okay.
Okay. I mean, Chapter 8, I think, was, again, a good way of, like, ramping up to the finale of Mario versus Bowser. Like, again, it's something that you see often, but I think Paper Mario 64 does it, so it's very cool. Like, the final fight. Even the area before it, though, were a lot of cool stuff here and there.
By the way, that final fight theme goes so much harder than it has any right to.
It does. Like, it really does. Like, that's what makes the fight feel so crazy, too.
Yeah, that's the only reason Bowser actually feels cool in that game, in terms of fighting him, you know? Like
it's kind of cool. It's funny because, like, a lot of people love the personality that Bowser has in the paper games, and he has it in 64, but I was saying that the fight, it's crazy because, like, people love the personality of Bowser, who is this, like, softy tough guy, who's sort of a goof, and he's sort of, like, you know, whiny and bratty and stuff, but even after you know that, you know, you've played with him throughout the whole game, they still made the final fight, they made him really intimidating, you know, really brought it to you. Like, it's a real-ass fight. And it's cool that they had that balance with him, like, in that whole game. Like, a lot of times, you fight the final boss, it's gonna be just straight up, he is final boss. He is tough. You do not know what his, like, real personality is. You're just fighting him. You're just ending this. Bowser, you kind of know. You personally know him at this point. Every time they do, like, a segment between chapters, you know him, like, you know what he's going through. He's thinking of ways to, like, figure out how to beat Mario, how to make it so that, like, Mario has a tough time. Like, it's just Bowser shenanigans the entire time. And even though it should make it so that, like, you're not, like, that, like, oh, it's Bowser, oh, wow. It's still like, a crazy fight.
It's this thing of familiar yet different.
Yeah! I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna hold that kind of thing against the other paper games, because obviously they have their own bias. Like, they still have a lot of good boss fights that are still really cool. But this one was interesting just because of the way they approached it.
Funnily enough, the M&L series does this, because except for Mario and Luigi 2, although even there technically, but every Mario and Luigi game has Bowser as its final boss in some form.
Yeah, you're right, yeah. You do fight him in there, and you do know him pretty well, because he kind of pops up here and there. So it's actually pretty cool. So, yeah. Again, I like Bowser. I think a lot of people do. So I do like it when, like, if he shows up in a game that you're not playing as him, he's a good boss fight. Like, he's a good fight that you can, like, enjoy. Like, still tough, but still fun. And he still gets to showcase, like, what makes Bowser fun. Like, you know, he's a goofball, he wants to be tough, he wants to beat the Mario Brothers. Mario has to just, like, alright, Bowser, we've done this dance a billion times, but we're gonna fucking do it again. And it's still cool. But yeah, Chapter 8, I think, is a good Chapter 8. Like, I think it's a good, fitting final chapter.
Except for the Dark Room. The Dark Room is the worst part of Chapter 8.
What's wrong with the Dark Room, bro?
Because you need to have WOD out to see things. And,
yeah,
and they have this annoying enemy with the spikes, the spike, bony, buzzy beetles.
Look, it's the final chapter, Shy. It has to be. There gotta be some segments that suck. Like, they want to make you suffer, bro.
It's not suffering, it's just an inconvenience. I need to get one out to see that I need to use para-carry. Great.
I mean, I thought that's the first thing you'd say. I think that segment sucks because you have to make jumps in the dark. Not, like, I don't fucking care about the enemies. Like, fucking jumps in the dark.
Well, the
Especially
enemies
those
are
paths.
also in the dark.
I mean, yeah, they are. I still like making the jumps. Especially jumps that you have to, like, if you pick the wrong path, you have to, like, walk back and be like, where the fuck am I?
Yep. Although the biggest gripe I have with it is no return of the Kooper Bros. That's very unfortunate.
Ah, yes. The blue ball of Chapter 8, yeah.
Oh, they have a better theme than Junior Trooper. I'm just saying.
They do. So we did get blue ball. I agree. They do. Also, yeah, Junior Trooper. Real quick second here. Bring back repeating rivals. He's cool. I like that. I like that concept. Yeah, it's fun. Not a big thing. I just like him. I like repeating rivals.
I mean, TDYD sort of had it with the Shadow Sirens. They appeared a couple times.
Yeah. I just like it because he made it personal.
Yeah, he
adds an extra little to me. Alright, so now we can get our closest to. Sorry, I just wanted to bring it up because I feel like we'll be talking about this game all day. So,
I mean, that's the point.
Yeah, true. So when it comes to me and scoring games and stuff like that, I usually like to give a score where I think my heart of heart is with games like this. And I'm not gonna rate Paper Mario 64 in terms of Paper Mario games. Like the rest, like I'll rate them as they are. Video game. Even like now, I can give a score. Again, Paper Mario 64 aged really well. I said before, there's really nothing I can take away from it. Good pace, good fights. Badge system still holds up to even today compared to lots of other like modern games, like class and subsystems. Like that's a thing. It's like I've played RPGs where like you can make, you can have 50 classes intermingle with different abilities. You can have this 1 out of a million class. It's only yours and yours alone, and that's cool. But sometimes you need to go that hard. You just need to make a good class system or a good badge system. I'll put this on here, and this changes my little gimmicks, and that's good enough sometimes. So, I think even on like modern day, as this podcast goes up, I still think Paper Mario 64 holds up well. Like I think before, I gave it like a 9. This is out of a 10 score, a 9 or an 8 really, just because like I still think it does a lot of things really well that a lot of games don't do really well, even back then and even now. So like, I probably would still put it an 8.5, like between an 8 and 9. I don't think it's perfect, honestly. There are some things that I could talk about more that like I don't talk about the bad stuff about it just because like they're not that big to bring up. They're nitpicks really. They're legitimate issues obviously, but like to me they feel sort of nitpicky. I'm just gonna leave it at 8.5. That's the score. Still really fucking good. Like, can't go wrong with an 8.5, bro. It's a good game. What do you think, Shai? What are your closing thoughts on Paper Mario 64?
I give it a 9.
There you go. And just like that, Shai gave it a 9. Really good game, and I agree with it.
Like,
very good.
I'd say like from a more general game perspective. Personally, I'd probably give it an 8, even though I love it. But that's literally just the point is literally just deducted because of difficulty. It's a bit too easy for me, but it's okay. Yeah. Easy games are still good. We still love it.
I still like to like point it out there where it's like I still like the Paper Mario game how it does it. Like even though like easy games can be boring just because like you played through them.
Yeah, the good thing about Paper Mario is that it gives you the freedom to do your own dumb challenges.
Yeah, which is really good. Which does come up a lot of times. Not just Paper Mario and the future ones, but it comes up with a lot of games.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely talk about it. We'll cut into it a bit more next episode, as well as part 2 of base stuff, because we didn't talk about a couple other things I want to address, but we are an hour in, so it makes sense.
Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed our little discussion of Paper Mario 64. Again, we did talk a lot about this episode. Probably more to say, honestly. We wanted to give you our general thought process. And our general thoughts on it. It'd be super awesome. And we also want to let people know that this is not the first, this is not the last time we'll be talking about Paper Mario 64. We will be talking about each of the games in different aspects, for the topic of the podcast as it comes up. We went really light on everything. We talked briefly about the chapter. We talked briefly about the combat. We talked briefly about how everything comes together, the music and stuff. But there'll be times where we want to really dissect the combat, maybe compare it to something else. So it will probably be back up again in different aspects that we didn't discuss about the game. So yeah, just letting people know this is just going to be out here as our hey, what do you guys think of Paper Mario 64? This is the episode. Boom. So next episode we'll talk about Thousand Year Door. And as you can see, because we kind of hinted, we have some different taste on Thousand Year Door.
We don't hate it, we just don't love it.
Yeah, again, we'll talk about it. So, other than that, anything else you want to say? Anything, Shadow?
No, I think I'm good for today.
Alright, well, that's going to be it for the Kooper Scooper episode 2. Again, if you want to see more episode ideas, please comment the video down below, give a sub, everything helps. Makes us keep going. The next one will be the rest of the Paper Mario games. So any ideas you want to put down right now will probably be put afterwards. So we're all gonna be listening. We're all gonna be reading. And if you want to talk to me, talk about the podcast more, get to know the two guys behind the screen here, we do have the Discord down below. That'll be linked. Other than that, I will say adios. Thanks for coming by. And remember to always enjoy the show.
Bye, folks.
Bye.